was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in. It's a long 12 hours, the power's out again. I pray for inner strength and that we don't lose no lives. Just another day in the first responders' eyes. Half a cup of coffee's gone, the first run comes in. A car slid off the road, there's a family trapped within. My heart beats like a hammer, I can barely catch my breath. I'm thinking the worst and hoping for the best. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on when those sirens are gone.
Hey, welcome to the award-winning Mad Radio Show. Soon to be, should I announce it?
I was going to do it at the end, but sure.
Oh, okay. We'll announce it at the end too. Soon to be a badge of honor
Podcast.
Radio show podcast. We are changing the name to coincide with our 501c3 network, a badge of honor. So all the content will remain the same, but the name will change. But we will still be bringing you the best mental health and first responder topics as we always have. I want to welcome Sam. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing great, John. It's great to see you this week.
Yes, and I just was on a 99, and we were discussing our heroes. I had three great organizations on there: the 9/11 Heroes Run, 9/11 Stair Climb, and the Texas Veterans Network. All great resources for what we do and from what our like-minded individuals out there and our service-minded individuals should be part of. But when we talked about 9/11, we got 9/11 coming up real soon, a couple of weeks away, probably less than a month away. And, you and myself, I was there with Gus today from the Texas Veterans Network, who was there as well. And, very emotional time for all of us. And we've pledged and promised never to forget. And we're going to do the same this year on the 21st anniversary.
Absolutely. Actually, it was a fantastic show this afternoon. And I have to say, if you guys that are out there, if you've never been around John and Gus in the same room, so everybody can tell, John, you're from New York, you like sauce, you drink coffee. When Gus gets in there, it's like amplified and multiplied by 10. You guys could do your own show, like from New York to Texas or some comedy show. Because it was, while you were talking about this really serious topic, your accents just, I don't know. You guys
magnified it.
You guys always put a smile on my face. Like I said, especially when you're together in the same room. And Gus has got a huge heart, just like you. Everything is about how do we help others. I mean, you started Mad Radio making a difference. How many years ago?
Probably about five years ago.
And you can, you continue the mission. I was just so blessed to be brought in on the whole thing. And 9/11, while it changed so many people's lives on that day, but since then it continues to, with all of the illnesses and the post-traumatic stress that not only affected us, but also the people that live there. Yep. And other responders that came from different areas of the country to assist at Ground Zero and then at Fresh Kills where they, sifting through evidence. And, it is one of, it kind of ties into our guest tonight, because it's certainly the reason I looked into a service dog, ended up Frodo, my therapy dog, and we went through some really cool training, and we got to bring he's sitting next to me as he always does while I'm doing the show on the couch, on his couch. Yeah. Yes, he's that big. He's a shepherd mix, so he has his own little love seat couch thing. And the way that going through my own PTSD journey, how I learned how to manage my triggers. Now I have Frodo. We've been pre-COVID to a lot of places. He's offered comfort and support to veterans, other first responders. You've been there when it's just like, go, Frodo, go. Yeah.
Well, it's like that's like Chris's dog, Dale.
Yep.
You get a service dog, or you get one of the therapy dogs in a room of first responders or veterans. You can really tell who is battling, because that dog will go over and place their head on his knee, and you can see who is battling.
Yeah, or
sit down. Or sitting down. It's like a teacher picking out somebody in class, going, "Oh, you're battling. Let's find you some help."
Right.
Which is amazing. What dogs provide for human beings is beyond what any therapy session could really afford, because it gives you that comfort and that soothing feeling, along with the dopamine and all the good feel good chemicals that get dumped into your brain when just stroking the dog or petting them, and just it's a calming feeling.
Well, and it goes beyond that, because as you and I have both gone through our post-traumatic stress journeys, we continue to manage things, and reaching out and talking to a lot of people. We know that traditional therapy isn't for everybody. Recreational therapy, we've had a number of organizations on. And so when it seems like you've tried everything, it's like, well, have you explored a service dog? And we've spoken to a lot of people that have service dogs, and those that don't, and they're kind of like, well, what do you mean? How would I get have access to a service dog? Because on the outside, PTSD is not, you're not wearing it like, you don't get tattooed. Yep. I have post-traumatic stress, and so that's what I love about the organizations that are really making a difference for our veterans and for our first responders. And tonight we have got your 6 support dogs on the show. I'm going to bring on Executive Director Nicole Lanahan and her very special guest with her. Hey, Nicole.
Hi.
Hey, Nicole.
How are you?
Good. Yeah, I can't do anything without my sidekick.
Well, he is a very awesome sidekick. His one side is obscured by the your name tag, but there you go. Yep. Now everybody can see he's a Malinois. We picked that up when he first came on. He's shy.
And he loves it. This is his now, don't be deceived. He's not like this this is his after 7 o'clock. He kind of winds down and becomes, this is super snuggly. Like he's just wanting to snuggle right now. But I always tell people, they see the best of him and they're like, oh, I want to get a Mal. And like, do not get a Malinois. They are go, 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 go. I've been in dog training for 20
like that.
Yeah. I'm 42 years old. I've been in dog training for 20 years, and even I have days where I'm like, I'm too old for a Malinois.
They are awesome dogs.
Nicole, let me ask you a quick question, real quick. With the way Rooster, right? Rooster?
Yes.
Is his name? Rooster is just snuggling on your chest, right?
Yes.
When you brought it up, Sam, why do people need service dogs, or why do certain people need therapy dogs? What is your feeling right now with that dog just laying on your chest has got to be so calming and comforting.
Oh, absolutely. And we know, I mean, science has proven that if you pet a dog for 30 seconds, you're going to get a release of dopamine almost equal to that of like a Xanax. So
Wow.
when I do presentations to high schoolers, they get a kick because I can tell them, look, you can go home and get high on dog. You literally can.
I love it.
So I like to get high a lot too.
Well, he is. Rooster is awesome. I'm familiar with Malinois. The Secret Service uses Malinois, so
Yes.
totally understand that high.
Yes.
You know, the drive, and they just like anything. The Energizer Bunny even has to shut it down.
Yes. Yeah.
They are incredible dogs, and you know, you said that you've been in dog training for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
How did Got Your Six support dogs? How did that come about?
So I was in dog training before 9/11, and before 9/11, I was training narcotic dogs with a group for the police and military, and we were getting ready to place. We had a whole group of dogs ready to go, and then 9/11 happened. And as government contractors, our contract was canceled. They said, hey, we don't want any drug dogs anymore. We need bomb dogs, and we need them in a hurry. And we weren't training bomb dogs at the time. So, or at least my particular group. So we were all of a sudden out of a job. And so the head of the organization came to us and said, hey, look, because we don't have anything trained, they're looking for government contractors to go to Afghanistan. Who's in? And at the time, as a 20, 21, 22-year-old, the amount of money that they offered was more than anything I'd ever heard of. So there was a part of me that and you're seeing everything on the news, and my heart was bleeding. And I thought, yeah, I really want to help. I want to do this. You see everything on the news, the people coming out of the rubble. I want to help. But when it came down to it, I was terrified. And I was too scared to go. So I ultimately turned it down. And turning down that job has kind of gnawed at me ever since. It was this little bit of guilt that I carried, because I like to tell people there's helpers in the world, there's defenders in the world, and there's teachers in the world. And the defenders I'm just in awe of, because I tell all of our veterans that come through, you guys eat fear for breakfast. You might not feel it right now because of what you're fighting to overcome, but you guys do eat fear for breakfast. I literally had the same choice as you, go to Afghanistan, and I could not do it. But I've made peace with that, finding out that I myself am a helper. So I'm not a defender, but I'm a helper, and it's a job that I excel at, and it was what I was meant to do. So it wasn't until, I kind of carried that little hole around with me, like your country needed you, your people needed you, and you were too scared to help because you have this skill.
No, but you know what? You in retrospect, you are a defender. You're a helper, but you're a defender as well, because you are defending the dogs that wouldn't have had a chance to help another person. So you are actually changing people's lives, and you're defending the dogs that maybe are shelter dogs, abandoned dogs, or dogs that maybe have a purpose and never was able to find that purpose. You're finding that purpose for them. So you're actually a defender for our four-legged friends.
It's so kind of you. You can see, even to like now, I still get emotional about it. I've always been in such awe of our servicemen and women, our heroes. I still get emotional of just everything that they've done, everything that they do. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago, I started as a dog trainer. So I went out privately, and I started to get phone calls from men and women, service members looking for PTSD service dogs. And I will be completely honest with you that at the time when I started to get these calls, I was a disbeliever. I had worked for organizations to train diabetic seizure alert dogs. Mm-hmm. And so this is something, so the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, says a service dog has to be able to perform a medical task to be a service dog. And for me, when I'm training diabetic seizure alert dogs, they are alerting to their person has low blood sugar. That is a task. You can see what they're doing. When people started calling me about PTSD service dogs, I was really skeptical. I'm thinking, you just want to take your dog on an airplane. You just want to take him to the store. They don't do anything. And it wasn't until I remember where I was. I was working for an organization in Chicago, and I live in St. Louis. And so once a month, I'd make the 6-hour drive back and forth. And I was coming home from Chicago on the interstate. I know exactly the mile marker I was because it was a life-changing moment. And I get a phone call from a veteran, and I click on it. It's on my Bluetooth. And they ask me, they're like, hi, I'm really hoping you can help me. I need a PTSD service dog. I'm hoping you can help. And I go, I'm sorry, I don't do that. And they immediately just started crying. And I go, well, I'm trying to help. There's other organizations that can help. Have you tried the XYZ organization or XYZ? And they said, well, I've tried this organization and they wanted to charge me $20,000. I'm on disability. I don't have $20,000. This other organization has a 5-year waiting list. I've done everything. I've done all the therapies. I can't leave my house. She goes, you're literally my last hope. And I told her, let me see what I can do. And so I got off the phone, and the very next day, 8 a.m., I call my accountant and I said, hey, Curtis, I want to start a 501c3. And he said, Nicole, don't do it. I'm telling you, as your accountant, huge mistake, big mistake. Don't do it. To go into the private sector, train service dogs for money, do what you need to do, but don't do this. And I said, no, I want to do it. We're going to do it. And so that was the start of Got Your Six Support Dogs. And since then, we participated in research studies with Johns Hopkins University. I am a believer. I myself have to understand how things work. I had to understand what it is the dog actually does to the brain, to the person. And they truly are life-saving. They truly are service dogs to the very definition of.
Yeah. And you posted, I'm going to click over here and put your website up, because you guys, we can multitask. You can watch the show and visit the website at the same time, because you have incredible statistics on your website. And, John and I have been proponents of service dogs for post-traumatic stress. We've seen them in action. We've seen them work. And so this is just another, if you're a skeptic, everybody starts where they are, because maybe you're just not a dog person, and that's possible.
Right.
But they really do provide an incredible service. And one of the statistics that I found that it profoundly impacted me, because it's that connection to others that we very easily, we just shut it off, because whatever the trauma is, it's usually involving chaos and lots of people. And we get to a point where we just want to shut out the world, and we shut out everybody with it. And so what the service dog is able to do is to help reestablish connections. And it was I think it was going outside the house or being with a crowd of people. And it started off your survey was like when they got there, like barely anybody went out. And then when you surveyed them after they went through the training, almost 100% were not only go out, but you had a number of them that were going out and amongst crowds more than 5 times in a week. So that's the impact, because I totally understand the closing yourself in your home. And yeah, not going out. It's that comfort, it's that support. And for it, I will say, we'll get this in a minute, but Frodo is a therapy dog. We got different training. He's not a service dog. But he's got that protective instinct, that support instinct that, he can sense, and he can just lean up against me. And if I'm ignoring him, I've been on a Zoom where he's actually jumped up on the chair and like, hey. So talking about tough stuff, what is the difference between a service dog and a therapy dog?
Right. That's a great question. So again, the Americans with Disabilities Act says a service dog has to be able to perform a medical task that helps alleviate a medical disability or illness. Now, so a service dog is going to be paired with one person and work just for that person, assisting them with whatever that dog is trained to do, whether it's a seeing eye dog, whether it's a hearing dog, whether it's a epilepsy dog, or that alerts to seizures, or a diabetic alert dog that alerts to low blood sugar. So they're going to do these things, and I'll kind of get into what it is exactly that PTSD service dogs do. But they have to be able to perform a medical task. They're extremely highly trained, and they have public access. They can go anywhere. Therapy dogs, on the other hand, can be owned by anybody. They do have to have a certain level of training so that they're obedient and their temperament is sound, and they go out with their person and they provide comfort to others. So they're not really meant for one person per se. They're owned by one person, but they're meant for the community. They make a community-wide impact. Now, service dogs, even belonging to one person and doing a task for one person, can have a community impact too. And we can go into that as well. They definitely have a whole family impact. But because we know that when a person suffers from PTSD, their entire family suffers. There's enough research to show that the children, the spouse, they in turn will suffer from anxiety and depression. Their chances increase. So when a service dog comes in and alleviates the symptoms of PTSD for one person, they're actually alleviating them for the entire family and assisting the entire family.
Well, let me ask you on that, because with PTSD, right? And I know you were kind of skeptical about post-traumatic stress in the very beginning, but now that you've learned so much about it, and me and Sam have been proponents to show that it is not a mental disability, but more of a brain injury, or an injury to the brain that is occurred by trauma. Now,
yes.
All right, so a service dog and a therapy dog, with post-traumatic stress, they're both performing the same task, right? Because
they're not.
Like you're saying is, 30 seconds of petting a dog releases the dopamine and other feel-good chemicals. So being a service dog, yes, he can't detect my low blood sugar, but he can detect my stress levels. He can that cortisone rush. Cortisol rush he can detect, but so can a therapy dog, correct?
So there are very specific. Oh, and I want to clarify one thing. I was never skeptical about PTSD. But I was skeptical about service dogs. Yes. But PTSD service dogs are they're task trained. So they do things that therapy dogs cannot do. And I feel like I just like to give listeners a very quick, brief overview of PTSD, and I'm sure most of them have heard. But like you said, PTSD is in the brain. And what happens is what causes PTSD is a little gland called the amygdala, and it sits in the back of the brain on top of the brainstem. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard this. And we can blame the amygdala for PTSD, but the amygdala is actually really cool. And I explain this too, because what happens is when you're in a life-threatening situation, the amygdala fires on. And when it fires on, you become a superhero. It can save your life. You can see in the dark. better. You don't need food. You don't need sleep. You can go. You're stronger. You're faster. You think faster because it just floods you with all that adrenaline. And like you said, cortisol, and you become a superhero. It does save your life. The negative about the amygdala is that it records memories. So when it fires on, it starts recording like a computer or like a camera, and it records everything that's happening in crystal clear clarity. And so memories are meant to be stored in the frontal lobe. So when you think about your wedding, I was married 17 years ago, and I can think back to my wedding, but a lot of those details, even 17 years ago, are fuzzy. I can't remember the color dress that my aunt was wearing. I can't remember what color tie my brother was wearing. These kind of details, they're lost. They're fuzzy. The day was a blur. It was great, but you remember the big points. The amygdala, however, when it's activated, saves those memories, and it saves them incorrectly. It saves them in the amygdala, and it saves them in that crystal clear clarity. Memories, we all joke when we get old that our brain gets fuzzy. Oh, we can't remember things, but that's natural. That's normal. That's what's supposed to happen. The amygdala stores those memories again in crystal clear clarity, and it keeps them as a warning manual. So I'm going to use my example. So I had been diagnosed with PTSD from a car accident, and I was in a car accident it was a 20-car pileup on a very icy day. I was the first car hit, and then 19 other cars smashed into me.
Wow.
Now, because my amygdala recorded that day, for the longest time, I could not get into my car on a day that was slightly overcast. Because again, the day was overcast when I went out. It was an icy day. And so as soon as that happened, the amygdala fires on, and it replays those memories again. And so I can remember the sound of the glass breaking. I can remember the smell of blood. I can remember the feel of it. I can remember the sounds of the other people screaming. I can remember it. That was 15 some odd years ago. I've done so much therapy and so much work that I do have trouble remembering it now, which is the way it's supposed to be. I don't remember all the details anymore. But because of that, when the amygdala fires on a memory and it's that clear, the frontal lobe can no longer distinguish between the memory and it really happening. So then everything fires on again. And what happens is when the cortisol and the adrenaline are fired on chronically, we can almost, there's now linking PTSD to a whole host of issues, because doctors have been baffled forever about fibromyalgia. Now they're discovering the link between PTSD and fibromyalgia because of the chronic inflammation that's going on because of all those bad chemicals. Your body was never meant to have them pumped through all the time like that. We had a veteran, and just to give another quick example before I explain the dogs, we had a veteran, for example, who was supposed to come in for an interview for a service dog, and it was a half hour past their appointment. And I thought, okay, well, maybe they're not. Sometimes you have applicants who aren't ready. And I figured, okay, this is an applicant who maybe got scared about the healing process and said, I'm not ready. And maybe they're blowing me off. Well, a half hour later, I do get a call, and it's them, and they're hysterical and apologizing as well because they saw a cardboard box on the side of the road and they had to turn around. And you and me are like, I know you two are both servicemen and women, but myself at first, before I truly understood, I'm like, a cardboard box? Are you kidding me? Well, it turns out that's where, and I had to learn, overseas, that's where they hide a lot of their bombs.
Yep.
And so for him, the frontal lobe, logically, we all know logically, the frontal lobe says there is no bomb in that box. But the amygdala speaks up and it says, do you want to risk it? And of course, if you're not going to gamble. So they went home. And we see this again with our servicemen and women around Christmas time when they're going into stores and everybody has the big heavy coats. Or even we had a service member who was really triggered by pregnant women, because there were so many who used overseas, again, pregnant women it's just horribly sad, to hide bombs or carry bombs or be suicide bombers. So what our dogs do and how they can affect the brain, like you were saying, just petting a dog gives you all those great chemicals, but our service dogs are trained to spot the moment that the frontal lobe start to slide from frontal lobe into hindbrain. And by doing that, and they're trained to alert to that moment. So, and I don't know, now Rooster again is not a service dog, but I do some training with him when I do presentations. So he has been task trained, but not a service dog. But a good example is I'm sitting here talking to you. We've been here this whole time. He's literally in the corner right now sleeping. But if I start to go, and you can see, like, even if I'm trying not to acknowledge him, like, and he's not going to stop until I do. So the point of that is before I get into it's a combination therapy. Before I go all the way into amygdala, because when you're in amygdala, you're in fight, flight, or freeze. You're too gone. So this is when you're going to lash out at your family. You're going to shut down. You're going to start crying. Maybe you're at the zoo with the kids and you're like, I gotta go now. I can't do this. That's too far gone. We want the dog to stop from happening. So as I start, we train them to notice. Now we train each dog to the veterans. Some of them will make fists. Some of them will start doing the heavy breathing. Whatever it is, we train the dog that's going to them to notice and then to come up and interrupt that behavior.
So could they tell like an inflection, like you just said, inflection in voice, in tone?
Yes. Yep. We have one who said, like, I really have a problem yelling. And it's really hard to train a dog to come running to you when you're yelling at some. Most dogs will run. So we have some, and his dog will go booking it to him and jump on him and like stop yelling at the kids, because that was one of the things that he was like, look, I lose my temper, I yell, I hate it. And this is the part about the PTSD that I hate the most, is how I react to everything. So again, we train his dog to notice just when he started to get real. Now, part of our therapy too is not just the dog. So we train the dog to interrupt. Like I did that. He's trained to go when I go. Yeah. That's his to come and interrupt.
It must really. You better not get the flu.
Right.
So our program not only pairs the service dog with the recipient, but they also have a 2-week trauma resiliency program. And the way I, with a therapist, and the way I explain it is, when I used to train diabetic seizure alert dogs, we think that the dog alerting to the low blood sugar saves their life, but it doesn't. What saves their life is the insulin. Thank you, I'm going to take my insulin. It's not enough that the service dog alerts, but they have to know what to do next. Oh my gosh, my service dog just alerted that I'm starting to get anxious and starting to slide into hindbrain. What do I do next? So that's where the therapist comes in during the 2 weeks and says, okay, what works for you? And like you said earlier, and it was so great, there's so many different things that work for everyone. And that's why at Got Your Six, when they're here for the 2 weeks, we call it masked therapy. They get the cognitive behavioral therapy with the therapist, group sessions, but we also do journaling. We do mindful meditation. I have ADHD. It was diagnosed very young. Mindful meditation does not work for me for anything. I can't quiet my brain down. But we ask that everybody tries everything we do at least once. We did something called Aroma Freedom Technique. And that year we had 10 veterans. Seven of them walked out saying, that was the stupidest thing I've ever done. You just made me smell stuff. But 3 of them came out saying this was life-changing. Well, we know for those 3, okay, I start to get anxious. My dog's alerting. What do I do? Okay, I'm going to go do some essential oils. Okay, that didn't work for the other 7. So what are you going to do? We're going to find you something. Music therapy. So we pair the dogs with that. Our dogs are also, the service dogs are also trained to interrupt night terrors. So if their recipient is having a horrible nightmare and starts thrashing around, now we know that there's very different night terrors when you're a combat veteran or a serviceman, man or woman who's used to being in conflict. Sometimes you wake up okay, sometimes you wake up ready to brawl. So depending on how that person wakes up is how we train the dog to wake them up, because we don't want the dog to get injured. for the people who might wake up ready to fight, we will have the dog turn the light on for them from a safe distance across the room.
Wow.
For those that can wake up just upset and where am I disorientated, and that's when we have the dog physically wake them up with nosing, licking, or pawing. All of our dogs are also trained in compression therapy, which is just a fancy way of saying that we have them lay on top of their people. We all know that now the magic of the weighted vests and the power that compression provides when you're getting upset. So when, again, after a night terror, now we do have some military sexual trauma veterans. So we do not do this for them because sometimes they find confinement worse or claustrophobic. But if they're okay with it, we teach the dog compression therapy. You wake up upset, that dog gets on your chest and lays there and just provides that nice, safe, comforting weight. Our dogs, service dogs, are also trained to, a lot of our men and women come with traumatic brain injury. So if that's the case too, we can also train our service dogs to remind them when it's time to take any medication that might be forgotten, and also help them retrieve the most lost items. We teach the dogs to find car keys and cell phones. Those are the two things that we'll teach them to kind of hunt down in case.
Oh, I need one just for that. I need one just for that, because I am misplacing crap all over the place.
So in a very long roundabout way that I took to answer that question, that is the difference between our service dogs and our therapy dogs.
Now with that, I'm looking at the website. You have classes, right? So now you have, say you have 6 veterans or 3 veterans, 3 first responders, all suffering from PTSD, but all suffering from a different type of ailment of post-traumatic stress. So each dog has to be trained individually, right?
Correct. Yes.
So how hard is that to do that in one class? Is it individual training or is it group training, or how does that work?
So there's many different kind of models with service dog organizations. One of them is called the community model, where the recipients actually train the dogs themselves. For us, we do what's called the national model. We found that's more effective for us. Not that it doesn't work. The community model, I know we're friends with other service dog organizations and it works wonderfully for them. But for our organization in particular, we train the dogs from the time that they're puppies, and we don't place them till they're about 1.5 years. And it's not until, and in that year, usually by the time the dogs are 1 year old, we have a good idea what veteran they're going to be paired with. So that last 6 months, our professional trainers are tailoring that dog's training to that recipient.
Wow. Okay. So is the in that time frame where the dog is getting ready, is that when the veteran or the first responder comes to you, goes through the different therapy protocols that you guys have set in place, so you can see, oh, this dog would be great with this dog? And are you using the cue off of your therapist's comments, and how does that play in? Like, does the veteran know that what they share with the therapist will help them get the dog that they deserve, kind of thing?
Interviewing their personal. So one of our requirements, we don't have very many requirements other than you must be a service man or woman. You must be able to prove that either as a veteran with a DD-214 or as a first responder with a previous tax return or pay stub. Our other requirement is you must be actively participating in therapy on your own and for at least 6 months. And so part of our interview process is reaching out to their therapist. We get their permission, have them sign off that we can talk to them, and we talk to them and really get the feel of whether or not the therapist also thinks it's a good fit and a good time. Because there is a really sweet spot in recovery where a service dog can work wonders, but there's also a couple bad spots in recovery where a service dog will not be as effective. And typically a service dog will not be effective for an applicant until they are ready to say, I'm ready to get better. And it sounds funny because everybody that calls us wants to get better, but you have to be ready to do the work.
Mhm.
And some of them are not ready to do the work. Some of them say, we get to it in the interview, it kind of comes out that they just want a dog. Just give me a dog. Just give me a dog.
Right.
I
Like
don't
the dog's going to cure the whole thing. That's not the right. It's not the point of the dog.
See, that brings up a good point. A lot of, because when we were just talking on the other show with the Texas Veterans Network, the frustration factor in people who suffer from post-traumatic stress is very short. I mean, you go from 0 to 60 on frustration. So with the service dogs, they also have to remember that there is a lot of time and commitment on the veterans part or the first responders part, and it's not just a month long or after graduation. It's however old that dog is. That's a lifespan of commitment that you have to be with that dog.
Exactly.
That's a 10 could be a 10-year, 12-year commitment.
And dogs are very social creatures. They need community. They need to be social. And one of the worst things that can happen is for the dog, if we were to pair them with somebody who's not ready to recover, they're saying, "Oh, just give me the dog," but I don't want to go to the grocery store. I don't want to leave my house. They still want to
doing right.
Right. And now they've pulled that dog into the world and have cut the community off from the dog, which actually hurts the dog emotionally. They need that community. They need that socialness. And that's one of the really good when we find that applicant who is ready. I'm ready to heal. I'm ready to do the work. That dog pushes them for that socialness. We had a veteran 5 years ago who, when I interviewed him, he was so angry. He was almost just vibrating with anger during the whole interview. And I knew he was a good candidate. And I must preference too, if somebody isn't a good candidate one year, they might be the perfect candidate the next year. It's all about growth and where you are in your journey. And
Right.
he was so angry, but he was ready. And so I knew that I wanted to pair him to kind of offset his anger. I wanted to pair him with the goofiest, silliest dog that we had. And that's exactly what I did. And so 2 days into the program, our out-of-state veterans, we put them up in a hotel at no cost for the 2 weeks that they're here with us, learning their dogs, getting their therapy. And he comes in on day 2 with his dog, and he was so, I'll never forget, just red faced. He goes, "I can't do this. I cannot do this. This isn't working." And I told him, I go, "What do you mean it's not working? What's the problem?" And he goes, "I can't. I'm not going to say what he said." But he goes,
we don't bleep or anything, so please feel free to, yeah.
To quote him, he goes, "This fucking dog. I can't go anywhere without this fucking dog, without people wanting to come up and talk to me." And I go, and I told him, I go, "Well, look at that. Welcome back to the world." And he got so mad about it, but he ended up becoming one of our ambassadors and actually stayed with us long enough to become one of our trainers and help other veterans.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, right? I mean, when you affect somebody, when you see that change overnight,
yes,
and to go full on and now be part of the organization, that's fantastic.
You sparked a great question that came into my head when you talked about you gave this guy the most goofiest dog, right? That's another thing. Pairing the dog with the person, right? So, like, how do you know if you should give them not a Dalmatian, but a German Shepherd or an Airedale, or what type of dog they would be best paired with? It's like putting together a fine wine and a good meal.
Well, in our organization, we do not place pit bulls or German Shepherds, or even I have Malinois myself. We do not place Malinois. And it's not because we don't love those dogs. I have one myself. I love them to death. I love pit bulls. And it's not because we don't love them, but it's because of their public persona. And sometimes, like if I was walking my Mal outside, there have been times when somebody has go, "Oh," and they've seen us and they've literally walked across the street to get away from us. Now, a veteran who's isolating with PTSD is going, "That's what I want. Keep these people away from me. That's what I want." But we know that the enemy of PTSD, or really what feeds PTSD and makes it the monster it is isolation. And so we're not going to give anybody a tool that helps them become more isolated and helps them build more walls. So we love our Labradors here. We love our Goldens. For those, we do sometimes get applicants who are allergic or they have children who are allergic. So we've actually incorporated some poodles and doodles into our program. So we're very strategic about this in that these dogs invite people in. Now, we don't want people petting your service dog. You're not supposed to pet the service dog, but we want dogs that the community is not afraid of, that's going to keep them at a distance. We want them coming up and saying, hey, how are you doing? Thank you for your service. I know some of the men and women, they hate that, but too bad, you're going to talk to people. That's part of the deal. So
So I want to ask because I'm looking at the time and we have so much still to talk about. You offer service dogs for veterans and first responders. So lots of people can see, okay, we get the veteran thing. How does it assist a first responder, especially if the first responder, are they still active or is this a first responder that's retired?
So most are retired, but we have placed some with police officers who are on desk duty. And we have placed some with firemen / EMTs who are allowed to leave them. Not all fire stations are as open, but some do allow them to leave them in a kennel if they have to go on a run and come back. So it all depends. And that's part of our application process is if you are still employed, and it could be employed anywhere. We have our veterans who are out and about working in areas and doing different things, making sure that the dog will be safe in that work environment and that the employer is aware. Now, by law, if the work environment is safe for a dog, they have to allow a service dog. But we've had some employers fight back, unfortunately. But it's one of those things that we like to get the green light from the employers ahead of time, just to make things easier and to make the transition and the process easier.
Sure. Now you've got a lot of ways. Again, folks, I've left the website up this entire time because hello, Clue. We want you to go look at the website. You've got a lot of ways that people can support your organization. Talk a little bit about Adopt a Dog and some of those ways, because that's really cute.
We have an Adopt a Dog. It's really big around Christmas time. We have an Adopt a Dog program where you can you adopt a service dog, and by doing so, we actually send you the stuffy of the service dog that you're adopting. So if you're doing it as a gift, look, I adopted this service dog for you, and you get the stuffy of the service dog. You get their little trading card, your little adoption certificate, and then you get a newsletter that keeps you updated on what that service dog is doing throughout their training career until they're pairing, and then you get to see who they're paired with. And a little bit of a story afterwards.
That keeps everybody connected, and it brings awareness, education throughout that whole community. I like that. I love
that. We also have the traditional ways you can donate online. We have a capital campaign project coming up, so we can finally finish half of our building. We moved in ready to go, gung ho, October 2019, then COVID. So everything came to a screeching halt. We weren't able to get very far, but we're back. We're going to get the other half of our building done so we can double what the impact that we're doing. We also have little things like Amazon Smile. Just make us your Amazon, just shop on Amazon, or make us your Facebook birthday charity. That's a huge help too. That goes a long way. We're even toying with the idea. We heard of the cockroaches at the zoo. On Valentine's Day, you can name a cockroach after your ex, and then they'll feed it to some creature. And so we were toying with, look out, follow us on the website, because we're thinking about doing name a poop bag after your ex, and for $5, and we'll pick up a pile with it.
And you can just,
my goodness.
I like that. I actually like that. There's probably a lot of people out there that would want their ex's name on that bag.
Right. Valentine's Day 2023. Keep an eye out.
We will keep an eye out for the bag.
Yeah, Nicole, this has been eye-opening. Again, folks, go to the website. There is so much learning. Again, the statistics are amazing. So this is all backed up by like the real deal science research. It's all there for you to read. Go on there, make a donation, look at the pictures of the dogs. And especially Sam's going to make an ask like I always do. Go watch the YouTube video to understand the impact when the veterans, all of them in the video happen to be veterans, meet the dogs and are paired with the dogs for forever. That's their dog. It is super emotional, but you will completely understand why this program is so successful, why Got Your Six Support Dogs is so successful, and why they continue to make a difference for so many. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, folks, go to the website and we will definitely be in touch. Thank you so much.
Well, Nicole, real quick before we break, are there any events that you got coming up where people can come and see some of the service dogs and therapy dogs?
Yes, we have. Well, we do have a golf event coming up. Well, actually this weekend by us locally. But if you go on our events tab on our website, I'm the worst one with the events. The event coordinator is much better. I never know what's going on. But if you click on the event tab, you will see what we've got in store. We've got a lot of fun things coming up, especially now that we can have things again. We've been closed for so long.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. Again, folks, go to the website, click on events tab. If you're in the area, go out and support and meet some of those dogs. Remember, we don't pet service dogs. We do not pet. We can look and talk to their person. So thank you so much. And we will be in touch for sure.
Thank you again. It was such a pleasure.
All right. Take care, Nicole. Bye. Wow. So very, very cool.
Very informative. Very informative.
Yeah, totally excited for them. And what their facility that they're raising money, and half is open. All the pictures are there. Just go and look at it. And, John, you and I have some exciting news. You started to talk about it in the beginning of the show, and we've got our badge of honor is our 501c3 badgeofhonor.com for all of the workshops for our first responders. There's a ton of veterans that are currently serving as first responders, and so we are there to help you with your post-traumatic stress awareness, the stress awareness of the job. Like our shirts say, you are not alone. Been there, done that with the PTSD. And we call it PTS because we don't consider ourselves disordered. It is an injury. And so what we've been working on behind the scenes is launching a podcast specifically branded to a badge of honor. And we are super happy that is finally happening. September 12th will be the first podcast. Now, I don't want you to think, oh God, you're going away. We can't see you. Okay. No, podcast means we've got the audio that will be stripped from the video, just like we're doing here, like we did with Nicole tonight and all of the Mad Radio episodes. So you're going to have the ability to access us voice only, so traditional podcast, but also right here, we're still going to do the live streams. It's just going to be called a Badge of Honor podcast. Right. And again, our first show is on our first podcast episode. I have to get the nomenclature right. Is on September 12th. And so we're working behind the scenes and we need the time to do that. So thank you. Everybody for your support over all of these years for Mad Radio. We're going to be continuing to make a difference. It's just going to be called something different. That's all. Okay. And so everybody is still invited to the Badge of Honor podcast party. And that will be airing every Monday from 5 to 6 p.m. because you're going to be leaving work and driving home with us. With
That's right.
This guy, I got to get my finger pointing right. That guy and this girl right here. There we go.
That way.
And it's mirrored. And so we will be putting out announcements for that. And speaking of events and announcements, we have got Walk the Bridge coming up here on Monday. Monday the 22nd. I think that's Monday.
Yep.
And so if you are wanting to smash that stigma and raise awareness for post-traumatic stress, for suicide prevention, go to walkthebridge.org, because we're not just walking in Rockwall and Fort Worth anymore, John. Where are we walking?
Man, we're walking in Alabama, Missouri, Florida, Montana. Billings, Montana is going to be starting. Chicago is going to be starting. England with Grand Priest. He was on here before. Grand Priest is going to be starting it in England again. We have Italy. And what I just found out today is that Grand Priest from England has found a veteran who moved to Singapore, who loves the Walk the Bridge program, and he is going to start the Walk the Bridge mission in Singapore. So,
oh my gosh, awesome.
It's constantly growing. We have Rebecca, who's going back to Chicago. She's going to start Walk the Bridge in Chicagoland on in September. The 22nd will be their first month, March. Billings, Montana is starting this month. So there, if you want to start a mission of Walk the Bridge in your own community, in your own state, please visit walkthebridge.org and send us an email, drop us a line. We'll show you how to become a bridge captain, how to, get everybody together, and some of the rules that go, because we don't fundraise, we don't accept money. It's all about the mission and healing for our first responders and our veterans. So just look us up on walkthebridge.org, send us an email. We would love to see this grow nationwide. Is already it's hitting different parts of the world already. So very happy with it.
It's awesome. So again, support, come on out. You can support a Badge of Honor in so many different ways. Go ahead and visit the website. Again, we want to thank Got Your Six Support Dogs. Yes. Visit their website, support them. And we will again be putting out announcements about the launch of our new podcast, the Badge of Honor podcast. So stay on the lookout for that. We've got the Facebook page. Go ahead and follow over there. And thank you all for your support over all this time. We're not going away. We're just going to look a little bit different. We're going to bring you the same high quality programming as we always have. And to all the veterans,
I'm sorry, but this is not going to change. You're still going to do it on remote.
To all of our veterans, first responders who are taking care of us here at home, thank you so much. Thank you for continuing to be a shining light for so many others. Don't be afraid to speak up if you need help. Help smash the stigma with us. You are not alone. John, take us home.
Man, a verse I heard today, well, that was brought up, I mean, not a verse, but, I always close it with, you can be anything, just be kind. I want to bring it tonight. I want to close it with, if you have lost your why, let us help you find your why. And until next week, this is John and Sam with the Badge of Honor on Mad Radio. God bless.
Take care, everybody. Good night.
Good night, Sam.